All right, B, so we have a big election coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, people are saying the most important in our time, right?
Yeah.
So who are you voting for, and why should they vote for them too?
Well, listen, first of all, I'm going to tell you who I'm voting for. I'm voting for Trump. And people are welcome to vote for anyone they want, right? That's the beautiful thing about our democracy. However, I'm going to say this caveat. If you're voting for Kamala Harris because you dislike Trump, that person is emotionally and mentally weak, and I've got no respect for that person. In other words, if you're voting for Kamala because you don't like Trump, which pretty much tells me that you are also agreeing with me that Kamala is not the person for the job, and you would rather see the country go further into debt, further into shit, than have Trump, who you dislike. And I could agree with some facts why people would dislike Trump. And I've talked about this before on the show, like, hey, I certainly wouldn't necessarily want Trump to raise my kids, right? And some people go, well, his kids turned out okay. Well, that's great. But my kids, I want my core values, and I want my non-negotiable characteristics imprinted on them. So while I wouldn't do that, I think considering our two options, he's the best man for the job. And so the reason that's important too, man, is because what got us here today is because we have been treating our national elections, even our state elections, as a popularity contest versus actually looking at policies, right? And again, if you're like, well, I want to be the one that helped vote a woman into office, cool, man. Wait till Tulsi Gabbard runs, or any other competent woman, and vote her into office. But Kamala is not it. Everybody knows that. And this is why I absolutely just can't stand when people are anti-Trump and therefore voting Kamala. If you are pro-America, vote Trump, and let's make this country great again, which, by the way, we just did an episode on the BK show, and the whole episode was about, if you want to make this country great again, it's really not Trump or Kamala, although I'd rather you vote for Trump just because he's going to do so much better in terms of policy and our positioning with enemy countries who are obviously circling the wagons around the United States, waiting for Kamala to go into office because she's just as weak and incompetent and bought and paid for as Joe Biden. But we did an episode saying if you really want to make this country great again, it starts with you. Like, make yourself great again. Fit, financially fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit, with your family be fit, with your faith be fit. And then that will bleed into your community, that bleeds into your city, that bleeds into your state, that bleeds into the country if every single one of us focus on really making ourselves great again. We've outsourced the health of our country so much to government, local and national, that, you know, we do our goofy little vote on November 5th, and then it's like, well, now I'm going to sit back and be a fat jerk and hope the country does well. And it doesn't work that way.
Right, right. So I want to go back for a second when you said if you're pro-America, vote Trump. I think, at least me speaking from somebody in the Black community, I think even just saying pro-America is a problem to a lot of Black people, which is stupid. And I empathize with it because I used to be that person. I just made a video on YouTube talking about I literally did exactly what you're telling people not to do right now for Trump. Like, don't vote for Kamala just because you don't like Trump. Right. I did the exact same thing in 2020, voted just the opposite, right? And so now, looking back, I'm like, that was freaking stupid for me to do. Like, look what happened. I asked for everything that's happening right now. But I think...
by the way, remember that thought. That is so rare that someone would do that and then publicly admit it. You did that on your show, on your channel, which, by the way, everyone should go follow Leighton Cook's YouTube show. And not only are you admitting it, but you realize, like, I asked for this, and you've never once looked at yourself as a victim over the last 4 years. You're just like, all right, we're going to dig ourselves out of it as an individual, with your family, as a company, and as a country. But go on.
Yeah. So basically what I'm trying to get at is, like, I think a lot of those, it's almost like a buzzword, you know, for like it's almost like you can't be Black and, generally speaking, and love America.
Why
like
is that?
It's either like it's either the or. You got to be pro-Black, and pro-Black does not include loving your country. It's not being a patriot. It has nothing to do with that, because, well, this country is what, you know, is not only held us down in the past, but is continuing to hold us down now. And the white man is, you know, been still holding us back, systemic racism and all this stuff. So you can't love this country and be, again, generally speaking, Black, because this is the country's the enemy, essentially, right?
Right.
And so now,
white man is trying to oppress the black man.
yeah, literally, and so it's crazy. And again, I'm empathetic at the fact that I used to be that person, so I understand where they're coming from because you're fed these things, and so you're brainwashed. So it's not all your fault to a certain point, but you get to a certain age and a certain point where you just choose. Are you going to continue to believe in that, or are you going to grow and learn? Hey, you actually have control of your life. And it's not just the country. So,
do you mind if I flip the script for a moment and interview you, Leighton, since we've got you here?
For sure.
And for all of you watching and listening to this, you may not know that Leighton and I have known each other for going on 2 decades now. You were 10 when I met you, and you're 28 now. And maybe you can explain, at 28, father of 3, loyal, dedicated husband, beautiful wife. How were you able to now all of a sudden change your perspective that you can be a patriot, you are pro-America, and you don't believe the narrative that the black community has been told to believe, in my opinion? Yeah,
100%. We're told this. Like, we're taught from a really young age, which is why it's so deeply rooted in a lot of our mindsets. Like it goes so far back to where, your grandparents will tell you stories about what they went through, like actual racism.
Yeah, they actually
and so
saw
you hear
racism.
stories. And so if you continue to hear those stories, and they're telling them through a lens of like, this is what happened to us in the past. But from a kid, it's just like, now you're almost looking for things to kind of reaffirm what you just heard from them. So that's number one. You hear from your grandparents, hear stories. We see all these movies, like black movies, meaning like, a cast, it has mostly black people, are based off of a lot of trauma most of the times. Like Tyler Perry movies are all about the husband cheats on the wife and abuses her or whatever. And, we have Friday, which I love all these movies, right? But all these gangster movies, those are our movies, right? And slave movies about, slavery, and those are like our movies. I'm like, we have comedies too. Like we're funny people. Let's talk about some of those things. But anyways, all that to say, you keep seeing all these different negative things, and then you go out in the world and you might see something that makes you feel like the world is racist because you've been trained to look for it.
So you're looking for evidence.
So, exactly. I just
to reinforce what you've learned or have been told.
Exactly. I just told the story on my Instagram. The other day I was driving in my car, and I'm about to turn left onto this main street. There's an old lady across the street, and she's also going to turn left. So she has the right of way. I'm waiting for her to go her turn. So the whole time while she's waiting cars to go for her to go, she's staring at me in her car. Like she's mad dogging me in her car. And I'm very even tempered, so I don't trip. Like, right. I'm like, whatever, it's annoying, but I'm like, what is she staring at? Like, do I know her? Like, what is this, right? So after about 10 more seconds of this, I'm starting to get annoyed. I'm like, what is she staring at? And then I'm getting frustrated now. And I'm like, what does she want? So now my mind goes, this old racist white lady, whatever, right? I'm just being honest. And I'm like, what is she looking at me like this for, right? And so now the car's passed. It's time for her she can make her turn. So she's approaching my car, getting closer and closer. And she's looking at me, and she rolls her window down. And I'm like, what's she about to do? She's about to pull something out. Like, what is she about to do, right? So she's approaching my car, and she sticks her arm all the way out the window, and she puts a thumbs up. She's like, I love your car. I love the purple.
That is hilarious.
And I felt like the biggest douchebag, because I was like, man, my mind, after a while, just went straight to like, she's freaking racist looking at me. Why is she judging me? Like all this stuff, right? So anyways, my point is that I think we've been trained as black people, and really just not even black people, Hispanic people watching too, and any other minority that is not white for the most part, has been trained that we are less than, and we have to vote a certain way. We need to all be the same, and it's just not true. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think I can chalk it up to that as far as why eventually I kind of grew out of that, because I realized that we have a lot more control of our lives than we think we do.
And by the way, what you were saying there about like as black people, as Hispanics, let me just take it outside of the context of the United States. In 1915, the Turkish people, invaded Armenia and killed 15 million Armenians. The genocide that's never talked about. because, in fact, Hitler talked about it once when he said, look what happened in 1915 with the Armenian genocide. No one's acknowledging that. Years from now, no one will acknowledge what he did to the Jews, right? Was his ideology. My dad, understandably, born in 1934, so he obviously heard from his dad and his uncles firsthand experience of what had happened.
Right.
He still does, he's 91 now, just has a hate on for Turks. Mm-hmm. Now, you know Elchin, mm-hmm. Project graduate,
yeah,
Turkish, 100% Turkish. Like if we did a 23andMe, he's 100% Turkish, right? I love the guy.
Right.
Here's the crazy thing. As a young teenager growing up, all the way even in my 20s, if I would meet someone and they're Turkish, in my head, I was like, you're the fucking enemy. Mm-hmm. You hate me. You know that from my last name that it's I-A-N, and you know that that's Armenian. You're waiting for me to turn my back, for you to shoot me, stab me, kill me. I bet you have a hate on me. Mm-hmm. And I grew up thinking that because my dad and mom had brainwashed me.
Right.
Not like, hey, you should go around hating all Turks.
Sure.
But they told me how life was from their perspective and their parents' perspective. I carried that into thinking that it must be that way with all Turks. They just grow up with this, the DNA in them hates Armenians. Right. And so it is easy as parents, like if we want to end racism for good, I don't care if you're black, Mexican, Armenian, Turkish, Chinese, China, whatever it is that you are, if you stop telling those fucking stories, the next generation won't know to hate the old white lady who's racist, who actually ends up just liking your bright purple vehicle, which is a beautiful car, right? Anyways, that's the thing about it, man. Like we begin to hate each other so much because of the stories that we've heard, and all those stories are rooted in truth.
Sure.
Like your dad and mom have seen more racism than you. Their parents have seen more than them. That's sad. It's unfortunate. That is the fiber of the American soil. We can't change that. But moving forward, if we're going to hold on to that, or if I'm going to hold on to hating on Turks, then as soon as I saw Elchin come through the project, I would have been like, here's your money back, leave.
Right.
He's become such a dear friend, and I love the guy to pieces, and he's a Turk. I can't even go telling my dad that, because he would just be like, what the fuck is the matter with you? And he'd try and smack me. You know what I mean? It's just, it's interesting. So going back full circle, I don't know if you said, so what changed your mind? I just wanted to, what changed your mind into now the way you think? Guys, quick interruption to the show. Let me tell you all about the Truly Wellness Shot. If you're like me and you care about your health, hydration, and building a strong immune system so you can stay active and you can get after it in life, then you want to try the Truly Wellness Shot. I used to take 11 different supplements in the morning, things like vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B12, echinacea, ginger, and a whole bunch more. Now it's all included in the Truly Wellness Shot. I want to send you a 30-day supply for 50% off. Just go to Truline.com, use the code word BEDROAST, my name, to get 50% off. You'll also get free shipping. You get a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee, and $1 of every order goes to Shriners Children's Hospital. And when you use the code word BEDROAST and do the subscribe and save, which is a Truline Tribe program, every month you'll get a fresh supply of Truline Wellness Shots for an additional 20% off and free shipping, and $1 of every monthly order will go to Shriners Children's Hospital. So go to Truline.com, use code word BEDROAST, and take advantage of this amazing offer. Now back to the show.
Being a victim doesn't get you anywhere. And I actually realized this way before I changed my mind politically. But I think it all kind of happened around 2022 when I just changed a lot. I had a lot of personal development that year for myself. And it actually had nothing to do with politics at all. But it had to do with, watching people like you and, whoever else I was watching at the time. And there were men who pulled themselves up and they figured it out. And when their back was against the wall and, maybe their business was failing, they taught stories or told stories about how they got themselves out of it. And they didn't, they just did it themselves, right? So anyways, I learned that mindset and adopted that mindset because of you guys. And that translated later on when it comes to politics from like, well, why do I believe in having where the government gives you everything? I can do it myself anyways, right? Not to say you can't ever accept help. I get it. Sometimes you need help, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you have to do it by yourself. Yeah. But it kind of translated over politically where it was like, well, I don't want big government telling me what to do and having control and having their thumb on me all the time. And that just happened to line up with, conservative values. A lot of people, on the conservative side say, well, yeah, we don't believe in a giant government having their hands in on everything.
Right.
that was one of the big things for me where it was like, yeah, that resonates with me.
That's cool, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Definitely, man. So anyways, for people watching, I guess, you know, this is a lot more of a civil conversation than like Charlie Kirk and some other freaking college student on campus, whatever. But what would you say for somebody that is undecided? Not somebody that, you know, maybe you can't convince someone who's voting for Kamala already, but somebody who's undecided and they're like, well, I don't really like either one of them. They both suck. Why does my vote even count? I shouldn't even vote at all.
Dude, I agree. And I at the project last week, when we were taking a little break, we put the guys down for a little nap. I remember me and some of the instructors talking about the upcoming election, and somebody was like, we got 300 million people in this country, and these are the two that we have running. Like, I mean, off the top of my head, I could think of like 5 far better candidates, right? However, this is what we have. And so someone who's undecided, if you put your feelings and emotions aside and you realize, and you just look at facts, you realize the last 20 years, 16 out of the last 20 years, we had a Democrat in office. And by the way, I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican. Like, I'm right down the middle. I think we should legalize all drugs and tax it. We should legalize prostitution and tax it and keep it. That also keeps people from getting diseases and shit, and keeps pimps from beating the fuck out of these prostitutes, etc. Like, there's a lot of things we should legalize. And I think, hey man, if you want to have an abortion, go get an abortion. It's your body, your choice. But also let that translate to me, my body, my choice, when you're handing over vaccines like it's a fucking Pez dispenser. You know what I mean? Because it's my body, my choice. We're the vaccine. And so anyways, all that to say that if you're undecided, just look at the facts. When was the country the best? Did well for itself? Like, we could all agree that gas was like around $2.75 a gallon nationwide when Trump was in office. Interest rates were like 2.5%, 3%. And generally people were doing better. The border was closed and America was first. And we saw Trump literally go to North Korea and shake hands with Chim Young Chow, whatever the fuck his name is, right? Fucking whatever his name is.
But on that note, real quick though, financially, because you know people in the comments right now, or they're watching, are going to be like, well, yeah, the economy was better because Obama handed it over to him. What do you say to that?
All right, well, if Obama handed it over to him, then Kamala and Joe Biden had 4 years to bring it back to Obama ways, and they didn't. They shat on it further. We're involved in more military operations than ever. By the way, how about during the debate when Kamala said there are no American servicemen anywhere outside of the United States doing wars, and all these videos popped up all over social media of these guys sitting in tents all over the world running operations going, who the fuck are we then? You know, like fucking from Green Berets to fucking, you know, Navy operators, etc. Anyway, so all that to say that if you just put your emotions aside, not who you like, not a popularity contest, where did the country thrive best in recent years? It was during Trump's administration. Where did the country have the greatest amount of respect from other countries in the world during Trump's administration? Where was interest rates lower, inflation under control, gas prices, food, etc. lower, and people doing better under Trump's administration? And I know people are going to say, well, you're just saying that because you're rich, you run businesses, and you are going to directly get the benefits of Trump lowering taxes on the rich. They are absolutely right. But when I pay less taxes, guess what happens? I have more money. When I have more money, I create more businesses and more opportunities and can give pay raises and create more jobs with those businesses that I've created. When I have less money because I'm being taxed through the nose, then I go, well, I guess I got to look out for number one first, me and my family. And so I'm not going to try and create new businesses under this shitty administration that's going to tax me through the nose. So I'm not going to create so many jobs. And this is why historically we continue to have high unemployment rates when we don't have a president who looks out for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and even big businesses. Right. And by the way, it's not like Trump is only going to benefit big business owners like myself. He's looking out for the average American in every way possible. But he also doesn't do anywhere near a good job in terms of representing himself as someone who is likable and someone that you would be like, that's my president?
I've had a change. I'm not gonna lie. This is the last thing I'll say. I've actually had a change of heart when it comes to that too. Like, it started off as just like policy, and it doesn't make any sense for me to vote for Kamala and her policy. So it started off on that level, and then I would see there's one podcast I like watching called Flagrant with Andrew Schultz on.
Yeah,
there. They had Trump on there, and then someone else had him on their show, and I was just watching.
Have you seen the one with Theo Vaughn and Trump?
No, but I want to watch that one too, because I heard that one was funny too.
Yourself laughing.
So I started watching him just with like hanging out with people that I like watching, and he just seems like a normal. He's just like a grandpa. Like he's just normal guy. Like he's funny, and so I've actually had a change of heart of that when it comes to that too.
He's a shrewd businessman,
right? Yeah.
And he's very direct. To get to where he's been in business, he's had to be shrewd, ruthless, and direct. Mm-hmm. Most people in the country don't know how to handle that. I'm just going to be honest. Most people are too soft to be able to deal with shrewd, ruthless, direct people. And so they go, that's bullying. That's not bullying. But as someone who's going to be president, he should also know how to wrap a velvet around the hammer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
right.
I am very shrewd. I am very direct. I can be very ruthless. But I also know how to soften the blow when I'm making ruthless decisions so that I don't come off as a bully. And if I do come off as a bully, I don't care. That's not my intention. And I certainly don't go around calling people names like Trump would. And it doesn't offend me that he does do that. But I see how it offends other Americans. And they go, well, at the end of the day, he does represent us as people. He does. And so I travel a lot and I go leave outside the country. And during his administration, I remember people saying how does it feel to have that bully as your president? Mm-hmm. And, I would joke around with people tongue in cheek. Well, yeah, I get it, but he's also doing a lot of good for the country. And so, yeah, but thankfully someone took him off of Twitter. And so he's not able to just have midnight rants on Twitter. Right. And now thanks to Elon, he's back. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All I ask is that if people are undecided, to look at the facts and to give a shit about the country, put your emotions aside and vote for Trump. And if you're looking to put a woman of color in office, let's wait for Tulsi Gabbard, because I do believe that there will come a time that she will run, and she's a woman of color, was in the military, served our country, was very involved in politics throughout Hawaii, and gives a shit, has a high give a shit factor and cannot be bought and sold, which is why the Democratic Party essentially kicked her out.